Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Wednesday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. Today, I am giving you my monthly report. Now, report stands for reading, eating, playing, obsessing, recommending, and treating myself. And I really wanted to just do something kind of short and sweet this week. I don't know, I feel like a lot of my most recent podcast episodes have been very informative and a lot of maybe research backing them. And I just want to be able to chit chat, have a conversation with you and talk to you and share with you the things that I'm really focusing on in this kind of season of my life, specifically this last month, as we are now in the last Wednesday of May. I feel like this has been I would say April was the fastest month so far of the year. I don't even remember what happened in April. I feel like it was all just like a postpartum blur of taking care of a child and not sleeping as much and getting into routine and not working. And Nathan and I feel like really obviously got to spend good time together. But that was the month where both of us were kind of not working, both on maternity leave. And then last week I started working again. So it's just all kind of been a blur, I feel like, and May specifically too. We have two weddings. Well, we had a wedding this last weekend, and then we have a wedding this next weekend to kind of wrap up May. This last weekend, I had my friend's wedding. Obviously, I talked about that last week, and she was the most beautiful bride. It was so much fun. I was kind of nervous going into it with Oliver's feeding schedule because I was in the wedding party. I'm like, when is this kid gonna eat? Am I gonna have enough for him to eat? Because I'm primarily breastfeeding, and then I do some bottle, but not very much. And it all went so smoothly. And I feel like that's how so many things are, is we like really hype things up in our brain and get us kind of like freaking out over it. And then when the time comes, it's really never as big of a deal as we think it's going to be. At least that was my experience. And so that all went really smoothly. And truthfully, you guys, I just really love a dance floor with a lot of people and a lot of activity. And that is exactly how this wedding was. The ceremony was so special. And when the pastor did like his little sermon during the ceremony, I'm like, I feel like I need to say like amen, because it was just very kind of convicting about how many distractions can come up in your marriage and how many things can seem very valuable and like they need all of your focus, but it's really up to you and your husband, or your husband and you, like vice versa, to hold each other accountable to spending time together and prioritizing your marriage and prioritizing Christ in the center of your marriage. And it was just so good. Like I said, and then after that, we went on the party bus, and then we got to the reception, and it just all was the best night. I got to see some friends that I don't really see all that often. And then, like I said, the dance floor was bumping. I feel like that wedding could have gone for 4 hours later and people still would have been there dancing. Really good DJ, which I feel like sometimes at weddings it's kind of hit or miss on like if the DJ is going to be super obnoxious or if they're gonna, I don't know, kind of like try to steal the show. I've not really been to many weddings where that's the case, but I really like a DJ when all they do is really like give you the details of what you need to do and then play music. You know, it's not like they're not really there to entertain. It's like play good music, everybody can entertain themselves, and it was a wonderful night. It was just so much fun. So that was kind of a bulk of what filled up my weekend. So that was Friday activities, Saturday activities, and then Sunday we went to my parents for lunch and we're there with my grandparents. And then I worked a little bit on Sunday, which is something I really am going to try not to do. It's really difficult to be working significantly less hours, but the hours I am working, I'm client facing. So there's not a lot of like hours where I'm just working on my computer, looking at blood work, creating client notes, all of those things. So I did have to work some on Sunday, which is a boundary I don't like to cross and I don't recommend crossing, but it is one that I did this last Sunday just because there were things that needed to get done. But Luckily, Oliver, and I really hesitate even saying this because I don't want to jinx it, but he's been sleeping through the night for the last 3 or 4 nights. And then the week before, there were a couple nights he slept through the night. So we're talking, he goes from like 9:15 to 6:30 in the morning. Last night, I actually had to go in and check on him. I'm like, make sure he's still breathing, because it just freaks me out when I wake up and he hasn't woken up yet. So that has been a blessing for sure. I feel like I have the mental capacity to empathize and listen to people and be present in my job because I'm actually getting good sleep. So that has been something I'm so thankful for. I hesitate saying too much, but he's been a very easy baby, in my opinion. My mom's like, this is going to make you want to have more. And I'm like, yeah, not anytime soon, truthfully. But he is very, very easy. And if we were to have more babies just like him, it would be such a blessing. So that's kind of the sprinkle of, I don't know. It just is very nice to be able to get a full night of sleep, which I just wasn't expecting. I was expecting to not really sleep for the next year. And so to have those full nights that he's going, it really is nice. It's also nice because in the evenings then Nathan and I can sit down and watch a show together. And not that I don't love spending every single second with Oliver, and I don't want to make it sound like I want him to go to bed so I can not have to deal with him. I love that aspect of motherhood. But it is nice to have that one-on-one time with my husband. And I think that's really important and something that we really tried to prioritize, obviously, before we had kids. I feel like the length of time that we waited to have kids or have a kid was really ideal for us. It was about 3 years. So we got to spend a lot of time together. And now to have that maybe hour window in our evenings to watch something on TV together or just be together has been really nice. I really think that's about it for the catch-ups. Like I said, we have a wedding this weekend, so we'll see how that goes. Again, looking at the schedule and thinking, okay, when am I going to feed Oliver? It's all those little things where I'm like, gosh, these are things that you just don't think about until you have a kid, and then you have to think about it. And so, yeah, just making sure we've got everything under control. Have somebody to actually watch him during the wedding too is that aspect, because Nathan and I are both in the wedding. So really excited for that one. Like I said, it's my last week. It's my husband's childhood best friend. And then I've become good friends with his wife. So like I said, we're both in the wedding party. So I'm excited for this next weekend, trying to really rest up. I didn't realize how, and I'm not saying I'm old, I'm 25 years old, but I just can't hang like I used to. You think even, just having a couple drinks and then dancing all night long, my body is still so sore. I feel like my neck hurts and my feet hurt from being in heels. And I'm like, man, my body is just not as durable as it used to be. So kind of on the flip side of that, then it's okay, well, how can I support my body and make sure I'm not overdoing it? So then I took Sunday to really do absolutely nothing. On Monday, I just walked and did a 30-minute workout. Again, today I did a 30-minute workout and I've been walking as I'm working. So again, it's trying to then support my body, drinking a lot of water. Again, I'm making sure I'm doing my electrolytes and my perfect aminos before I have any source of caffeine in the morning. And then really using a castor oil pack to support my my liver and just that detox, the natural detox, doing lymphatic drainage with the gua sha on my face and my body, trying to just keep my system moving and grooving as much as I can, because I know I'll be eating different foods, drinking different things. This last weekend I did, so then it's okay, how can I support my body as I go into a weekend where, again, that will probably be the case. And those are just some ways I have been doing that. All right, so we're going to jump into the weekly or monthly, I guess, report. We're going to start first with reading. Now, I will admit I haven't really been very consistent with reading. Last year, I had the goal to read 24 books, and I want to say I read 26, which to some people that read all the time, that might seem like nothing. But I mean actually reading, not audiobooks. Unpopular opinion, I really don't think audiobooks count as reading, because in a sense, and I'm well, then I should be able to count every podcast I've listened to as reading. I know that's unpopular, but that is my opinion. But actually reading on my Kindle, the last thing I read was The Last Letter. And I read that in early May. And I got through that in about 3 days. I loved that book so, so much. And I think when you read a book that you love so much, it's kind of hard to find the next book that you want to read. And you almost are like coming down from a high. So with The Last Letter, that one's by Rebecca Yarros, I believe. She also wrote The Fourth Wing in all the books in that series. And so then I tried to read The Fourth Wing, and because I know a lot of people have loved that. And I just can't get into it. Like the whole Hunger Games, like I know there's a new Hunger Games book. That type of like, I don't even know what you would call that. Sci-fi, maybe? Maybe I'm wrong with that like type of book. But in my mind, like that type of book is just not appealing to me right now. I want a very interesting like love story that has lots of twists and turns and makes you question what's going to happen next. So if you have recommendations, please DM me or email me or message me with some recommendations, because I really want to find a book similar to that one. I loved it. It was about, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it's about a lady who owns like a place, I think in Colorado, like a really high-end bed and breakfast, but her brother was in the military, like very special operations. And so he has a friend that in his last letter, he recommends his friend becomes pen pals with his sister, and then he passes away. And so he, in his last letter to his best friend, told him to go and take care of his sister in Colorado. So then he does that. And so it's interesting because they're pen pals, but his sister doesn't know that this is the guy that she was pen pals with. Anyway, lots of twists and turns, truthfully. A very, very well-written book in my opinion. And so that is what I'm not currently reading, currently have read, and am looking for recommendations similar to that to read next. What I'm eating. Now, I have started for the last couple of weeks making banana bread for like the last 2 Sundays I've made banana bread to have for breakfast in the morning. So what I do, and I honestly just throw things together to make it, but it's like flour, coconut sugar, cane sugar, vanilla, cinnamon, flaxseed, baking powder or baking soda, and an egg, and then 2 bananas. And I just mix that all together. Obviously, I could follow a recipe. The first week I did, and now I just kind of dumped it together. But that's been nice to have for breakfast. I feel like I've really been struggling for breakfast and not even eating consistently, but having really any energy to want to eat what I have in my house. I've not been good about meal planning or getting groceries. And so I'm like, having banana bread is nice because I have 4 sausage links in the morning, the chicken maple ones by Applegate, and then I make banana bread, and then I have a source of fruit. And so having that, I've honestly had that for every breakfast the last couple of weeks, kind of that combination, and it's just been nice to have something to grab and eat. And really what got me on the banana bread train is I made that Bananas Foster coffee syrup, and that has just been a staple in what I've been eating or drinking every single morning, is that syrup in my morning latte. But so then I'm like, okay, well then I should just be making banana bread because I love how that tastes. And then it, like I said, it just kind of got me in the rhythm of having that for breakfast and then making it on and prepping it on Sundays. What I'm playing now, I would say, I don't really listen to much right now, like specifically podcasts. I feel like I've not really listened to a podcast recently just because I'm not really in the car that much. When I am in the car, the podcast that I'm listening to almost all the time is the That's the Point podcast. I love it. It is very entertaining. It's like you're sitting down with a couple of friends. When it comes to music, I've been playing Morgan Wallen's recent album, I'm the Problem, specifically the song with Post Malone, I Ain't Coming Back and Missing. Or if I'm not playing that, I'm playing Dirt Turns to Gold by Zach Top. Those are probably my 2 favorite artists right now that I could listen to all the time and just listen to those songs on repeat. And really, it's summer, so I feel like in summer, I just have this urge to listen to country music. It just fits, I think, and makes sense to me to be driving, listening to country music, or just listening to that when I'm outside working in the garden, or which I've not done much of because it's been raining, or just outside or working and cooking in the kitchen. That's typically what's playing. So if it's not That's the Point podcast, it's going to be Morgan Wallen's new album. What I am obsessing over, of course, I have to say my child. I feel like I look at him and I'm just mesmerized. And this last weekend at the wedding, we got him a cute little outfit, which I think he'll probably wear again this weekend. But it was little khaki shorts with like a striped shirt and suspenders. And it was so darn cute. We actually didn't get the chance to use his little baby headphones, which I would have died if I would have seen that, because he left pretty early on in the night. So of course we got a play mat for him, and I know you probably don't care as much as I do about talking about my child, but that is kind of a recent obsession. But outside of that, obviously, like that's just the personal aspect of my life. From a business perspective, I've really been obsessing over gallbladder and liver function research and looking at like the bile duct and how bile forms or moves through the system without a gallbladder. I've had a few clients actually that don't have a gallbladder, and truthfully, everybody is so different. So like recommending digestive enzymes with HCl to help with stomach acid production and the breakdown of food. Like a lot of people that works, or they have a lot of like runny stool. Other clients are constipated. And so it's just really complex. The liver has so many functions that it impacts so many different aspects of your health, which is why specifically postpartum, I am wanting to focus on liver function, because I know the role that the liver plays in your hormones. And postpartum, your hormones can be, kind of all over the place. And so just regulating hormones, getting them back, estrogen down to not be quite so elevated, which is common postpartum. And so I've been trying to utilize castor oil packs. I've been doing celery juice with 2 apples. So I'll do like an entire stalk of celery. I'll juice with 1 green apple and drinking that on an empty stomach. I've done that consistently if I have the ingredients to do that, which I do really like to do that first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. You could also do lemon water with sea salt. And then eating green foods is great for liver support. A lot of cilantro adding into our meals. And so those are just subtle ways I've been trying to support my liver. Obviously, reducing overconsumption of caffeine, reducing alcohol consumption. Mine has basically been 0 except for the wedding this last weekend, just because that puts a lot of load on your liver and your body's natural ability to detox, adding in lymphatic drainage. Again, just all of these little things to help support lymphatic drainage, to help blood flow and circulation in the body, to help digestion and the digestion of and the metabolism of fats, which is responsible in the liver. So there's so many aspects that really come down to like gallbladder and liver function. And so now I've been diving into, okay, what if you don't have a liver? What does that look like in treatment nutritionally with clients? Obviously, I'm not going to overstep and do practices with them that I'm not qualified to do. However, nutritionally, there's a lot of changes, and supplementally, sometimes you just have to utilize supplements if you don't have a gallbladder, right? When there's a complete organ missing from your body, there's a reason that God placed that organ within your system. It's not there for no reason, which is always why I question, if you go to your primary care doctor and they recommend like a hysterectomy or gallbladder removal or, whatever it be, like if it's complete removal of something in your body, I always just want to question that personally in my own life. I would question that, but I also just encourage clients to question it, ask them questions, look at alternative options. I cannot specifically recommend something to you to do instead. I don't have all the answers, although it's really hard for me to not have all the answers. I think that's where like that perfectionism comes in, and I get really hard on myself, and where work becomes stressful is when I put way too much pressure on myself to have all the answers. And truthfully, I don't, and I can't. I just can't. And so I've had to come to terms with that. But looking at what I can do to best support clients that really have a lot of stress on their liver or don't have a gallbladder has been what I've really been diving into and trying just to learn more about. And I really think that that's how things go, is in seasons. It's really interesting how like in one season I'll get a lot of clients that have issues with their gallbladder or have gallbladder removed. Others have PCOS or endometriosis. And then I'll get clients that have hormonal fluctuations, hot flashes, maybe they're perimenopausal. It's interesting how like in different seasons, like I said, I'll get a kind of a clump of those types of clients. It encourages me and pushes me to really remember what I have learned in the past and re-implement some of those techniques, learn more things, and then find obviously referral sources for them if it's outside of my scope of practice. But it just kind of comes in waves. Eczema is another one that's been really big recently in clients that I work with. So looking at like low histamine foods and your gut health and gut function, stress, hydration of the skin, common deficiencies that we see in blood work, all of those layers. And I was telling Nathan how hard it is because it's so layered. Everything is. So even like knowing where to start with a client, that's where I use my rebuild program as the outline, and then I cater it to their specific needs. Not anything that I do is one size fits all. We have 3 phases where we look at stress as phase 1. Phase 2 is diet. Phase 3 is the detox system and helping support organs that are weakened or removed. And that is just the progression that we go. So we really look at the foundations, which I talk about all the time, because they are so valuable, and that is where we start. But it is hard when you see more advanced things happening in the body. And I will tell you, clients do not come to me because they have a missing gallbladder. They come to me because they're severely constipated and digestion is not there. Or clients don't necessarily come to me because of their eczema, but they come to me because they have low energy, and when they eat certain foods, they start to get rashes. So a lot of things do always get tied into diet and addressed with diet. And then, of course, that symptom presents itself. So there's a lot to it. And that is just where I become very obsessive with the work that I do, because there's so much I can always be learning and implementing and adjusting. And I want to make sure that clients always feel very supported when they work with me, and that we get to the bottom of what's happening by utilizing blood work, utilizing additional testing or referrals, and utilizing your diet and foundations. All right, wrapping it up here with recommending. My recommendation is to buy clothes that fit you right now. Now, this is difficult because women's pants are not one size fits all, but like if you're a 4 in one brand, you might be an 8 in another. Or if you're a 2 in one brand, you might be a 28 waistband in a different brand. Like, it is not universal. And I think that is so incredibly frustrating for me. I went to Target this last week to just get some pants and clothes to wear this summer. I mean, your body just changes. I would say my hips are just wider after having a baby. And so, my body is just constantly kind of like getting back to its new normal. And I'm like, I need to have a pair of jean shorts that fit me. So this is my recommendation, buy a pair of jean shorts that fit you right now. And if you have to go up in sizes, so be it. If you go down in sizes, so be it. But just not wearing shorts because you don't have any that fit you is not okay with me. I honestly got a pair of Levi's from Target. They're kind of like a mid-thigh length. They feel very mom appropriate, and I feel very confident in them and comfortable in them, and I had to size up, and I'm learning to be okay with that and be okay with just the changes that are happening in my body, because it's a result of having Oliver, and that of course is something I would never regret. So buy the pants that fit you now. I know that can be really difficult if your body has had fluctuations or if you're postpartum, but I really do feel good. And I got so many compliments on them too, which is just funny, because to me, it's like that initial, oh my gosh, I like had to go up a size or 2 in pants after I had a baby. But then when people compliment you, it's like they don't care, and nobody knows what size you're wearing anyway. Get what you feel comfortable in. And if you want to notice changes or have changes occur within your body, I've got resources and podcast episodes for you to listen to, but also just have grace with yourself. Get what fits you now, and it can always change later if that's something you desire. And lastly, wrapping this up, is T for treating myself. Now, I have been treating myself every single day to a Bananas Foster latte with raw milk. The reason why I say this is treating myself is because I used to only do sugar-free syrups, and I would do a cold brew with sugar-free caramel and a splash of oat milk, because oat milk was way too high in calories to actually get a latte, and I would fret over that. And now I make a latte, like I've told you many times, every single day, and it is a peak highlight of my day. And I really think when you utilize quality ingredients, like I make my own syrups and we get raw milk, which I know there's various opinions on raw milk. I love it. It's really helped with my digestion and my digestion of lactose. Raw milk is a living food, so consuming it has bacteria and it really can help with gut bacteria diversity. And so utilizing raw milk only in my raw milk latte in the morning. I still don't try to do a lot of dairy, but makes me feel good physically and emotionally. All right, and that is it for today's episode. That is my monthly report. I feel like it might be kind of fun to do this every month and just give you a little snapshot into what I'm really focusing on, because I always start the podcast episodes with how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. But I like to get really in depth with what I'm doing, and I think this is just good variety and allows me to share some different things that I'm doing that are working and how I'm supporting my body. So thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. I'm trying to get some more guests on the podcast to just talk about different topics related to health, so be on the lookout for some of those episodes coming very soon. But if you need to ever contact me or if you have any book recommendations, use my email in the description of today's episode. Otherwise, you can follow along with my life outside of the podcast at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram, Bailey Seaton on Facebook, or my website is also in the description of today's podcast episode. So with that, I will talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.